All right.
Okay, we're live, and then we'll do the thingy doer here. And we got Jamie with us for episode 4 of the chat.
Welcome to
Hope everyone's having a good week.
Photography Chat with Merlin.
Hello, everyone.
Photography Chat with Merlin.
All right. So how have you been doing today, man?
Doing okay, except for apparently I've been exposed to COVID, so I'm in the little mystery zone where the rapid tests are showing up negative, but I have a PCR test I'm waiting on, so good time.
Goodness.
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling fine, thankfully. So I was with a friend who is no longer feeling fine, but it's been a little over a day since I've seen her, so hopefully maybe I dodged that bullet. I'm vaccinated, so I'm not like super worried, but it's just I have immunocompromised family, so I try to be super cautious.
Absolutely. It's weird times for that kind of stuff. Like, I've been working on building a studio the last few weeks, and I went to buy a sofa for it the other day, and I rang on the wrong doorbell by accident. I rang on the main house instead of like the side door.
Oh, okay.
And the owners were like, I don't know if you actually want to knock on that door. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, those people have COVID. They just told us like the other day. And I'm like, that's interesting because they did not mention that to me in the ad.
Yeah, that's, I mean, if they could like leave it outside and put a can of Lysol on it or something, that would be nice.
Yeah, so my partner and I talked about it and we decided to not buy the couch.
Yeah,
So.
I think a good enough reason to play it safe.
Yeah, I felt a little bit like a dick, though, because I was, like, sitting in their driveway being like, hey, sorry, something came up, can't make it.
Yeah, but they kind of left out an important detail there, so...
Yeah, it's an absolutely important detail. So What part of Texas are you in?
I'm in East Texas. It's about 2.5 hours, or 2 hours east of Dallas, about 3 hours north of Houston, if it kind of gives you a little bit of triangulation. Yeah.
That's cool. So have you always been in East Texas, or?
For the most part, I lived in Minnesota briefly and Denver, Colorado very briefly, but for the most part, I've been somewhere around East Texas.
Nice. Yeah, if you've like heard me talk in other episodes or anything, I definitely have a lot of love for Texas. I miss Denton a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just there a couple weeks ago at the Denton Camera Exchange.
Oh, nice. So you got to catch up with Armand?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's great. I had a SLR 680 that I had traded a Yashica T5 for, and it was having some technical issues, and instead of making him wait another forever to try to find parts and things like that, I decided to retrade it. And I got a Nikon OS 5 and a flash and a 20mm lens and a Nikon lens. So it was a really great trade.
Nice. Yeah, Armando is great for that kind of stuff. Like he's one of my best pals. It's been weird to not be able to see him for so long.
Oh, yeah. So how long were you around Denton?
I've never lived in Denton. I met Armand in 2018 in Boston. He accompanied Jason to a workshop that Jason was doing at the Leica store there.
Oh, cool.
And Armand and I hit it off really well and ended up becoming pals. And then he was like, yo, man, you got to come out to Denton for this like Policon thing.
Oh, yeah.
And so I flew out for Policon in 2018 and that was great. It was a lot of fun. Like,
yeah, I'm hoping to get to go to the next one. Like this one coincided, I think, right maybe at the beginning of Delta or something. I don't know. There's a reason I was a little sketched out by traveling at the time, but I'm hoping this next one I can actually feel secure enough about going.
Yeah, like for Policon 5, they did it was all remote kind of stuff.
Yeah.
This year, I think they're gonna just open it up again. Just have like a regular old Policon, which will be nice. And then there's Policon Bay Area, which is having its second one. That's coming up in March, and I was hoping to be able to go down for that one, but I don't know. Testing requirements and stuff are still a little make me a little leery about it. So I'm hoping stuff relaxes a bit more closer to September, so it could make it down for the one in Texas.
Yeah, it should be. Hopefully things will calm down. Like when it's between waves, at least it gets a little bit easier. My younger brother just traveled out of the country, so I've been through a lot. Like, I helped him with a lot of testing stuff.
Yeah, it's a little wild. Like I looked into like the testing to try and justify going to San Francisco, and decided it just wasn't. It didn't really make a lot of sense now. But hopefully, it's supposed to be coming to an end soon, right? That's what they're saying.
I'm hoping that'll be kind of burning out a bit, and we can kind of get around a little bit. And hello to everyone who I'm seeing and show up.
Yeah. So, what got you into photography? Like, what got you started? What got you interested?
The director Spike Jonze.
Yes.
Okay, so way back when he finished high school, he was a BMXer and skateboarder, and he got involved. He took the story something like he took his SAT, left high school, and then showed up in California for a BMX magazine called Freestylin', and there's a twin publication, BMX Action, and he worked on those, and that kind of was his gateway into skateboarding and all these other things. Like through a magazine and that publication, he met Sonic Youth and became their babysitter, and led to his music video career and so on. But Spike first was a photographer. He learned. He picked up a Nikon and raided the film fridge and went crazy with it. And he has this really great, energetic photography style. Like he back then, like he learned from the publisher of the magazines, Bob Osborne, who's still a really great large format photographer in Montana, by the way. And he was like the guy who figured out how to photograph BMX, and he probably concurrently with the early skateboard photographers, kind of like how to capture action sports and make it look like real epic or more epic than even it actually is. So that was Bob's thing, and Bob was really good at like lighting and commercial photography and everything, and passed that on to Spike. But Spike took this like rebellious like skater kid approach to it, where he's just like pushing the edge of things and showing a lot of action and energy and cool ideas in his work. And that I read it. I mean, I was 7 years old when this was going on. This is like 1987 to 1990. So benefits of having an older brother. He was reading this magazine, and I read him. It's like, oh my God, Spike and Lou and Andy, they're all amazing. And so down the road a few more years, when I'm a teenager, I kind of rediscover those, because BMX, like skateboarding, kind of like went under for years and kind of resurfaced in the mid 90s, and that same thing happened. And in the meantime, Spike Jonze had moved hard into music videos and had become pretty notable, like for Weezer and Beastie Boys and stuff like that. And I was like, Spike is still cool, and he's even cooler now. And then I had at that point, it's like, I want to be a photographer. I want to do what Spike and Lou and Andy did, because they were the editors, and Mark Luman still does stuff, and Andy Jenkins like is a designer. I forget exactly what he's doing right now, but he worked on the credits for Spike's first movies, and like he's a graphic designer primarily and painter and stuff. And so I wanted to do what they did, and it's like, okay, what's the fastest way I can do that? I'm a poor kid, I can't afford a camera. How can I get a camera? And when my older brother was in 8th grade, he was on the yearbook staff at his middle school. And I remember one time he got to bring home a camera to shoot an assignment with. It's like I don't remember what type, some little Canon AE1 type thing. But I remembered that. It's like, that's how you get a camera if you don't have money. So I signed up for the yearbook staff in my high school, my senior year. I spent literally that whole summer just like, I wonder if I'm going to make the staff. Maybe I'll get to use the camera once. And I just, like, the whole summer, I was just obsessed with it. And come the beginning of the school year, when they finally let you know your schedule, I see yearbook is on there. I'm like, does that mean I made it? And so, like, yes, you're on the yearbook staff. So I'm like, yeah, I'll get to use the camera, like, once a month or something. And then I walk in on the first day of school, like, all excited. And the teacher hands me this ugly blue camera bag, and she's like, here, no one else wants it. And so like it was like Christmas. I was like floating the rest of the day. I had a Canon Rebel. This was 1997. So it was a Canon Rebel. Then it became basically a Rebel G. hey, thanks, Victor. Commenting on my haircut.
It looks great.
Thank you. So I had a Canon Rebel G. I shot 1 million rolls of film. It was great because this is funny. We talk about how expensive film is now. So back then, it was homecoming. It was the biggest photo assignment of the time. You know, photograph the football game and the king, or we didn't have a king because East Texas, Queen, and but I shot 4 rolls of film that night, and I was like, oh my god, I just excessively shot, 4 rolls of film. What do I? This is insane. I felt like how much money I've thrown away. And so now I blast through 4 rolls of film during a shoot and don't even think about it. But,
it's kind of wild to think about that, yeah.
Yeah, but it was great because it was just an education and getting to have a camera and like, is this interesting? Take a picture of it. No, it's not. And and then the social aspect of you're the guy with the camera now, and everyone who ignored you completely before, because I was pretty introverted in school. Like I would go through whole days and I'd have to clear my throat to say here during like roll call, and then all of a sudden like every cheerleader and football player and everything wanted my attention because they wanted to be in the yearbook. So it was good to like open me up to the world and just give me that creative possibility, and it connected me to photography and graphic design and stuff, which in college helped me grow on that more. But that was like the beginning of my photography because I wanted to be like Spike.
That's cool, man.
Yeah,
I had no idea that he had that past with photography.
Oh yeah, and yeah.
Sorry, what were you saying?
Oh no, it's fine. He actually had a BMX exhibition in New York a few years ago. I wish I'd gotten to see it. It was very brief, but like maybe Nike helped sponsor it or something like that. But they had a big show of his BMX work up, and I've always wanted like a proper Spike Jonze book. Although he's got that Beastie Boys book now, which is cool. But he did some really great editorial photography of celebrities and even photographed Tiger Woods when Tiger Woods is like 12 or something like that.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So he has an amazing amount of celebrity and editorial work that no one's even seen unless they bought those magazines in the early 90s.
That's wild, man.
Oh, yeah.
I learned something new today.
Awesome.
So then from the, being inspired by Spike and being the only one that wanted the funky camera bag in school, where did you take it from there? Like, what inspired you going forward?
From there, it was like I got involved in journalism, and where I went to my community college was my hometown, Kilgore, Texas. Kilgore College for decades until just a few years ago had this incredible photography program. And the instructor, Rufus Lovett, who just retired about 5 or 6 years ago, an amazing photographer you should definitely look up. He ran the photography program, and Betty Craddock ran the journalism program, and they were like kind of intertwined, which is pretty unusual in colleges. Like usually they're like, oh, this is our art thing, and this is journalism. Never the twain shall meet. But there they were like, we need good pictures for our publications, and they're like, we need good practice for photojournalism. So they work together super well, and I got to be involved in that. So I got to kind of learn from this great editorial photographer who, like Rufus is good at everything, and his father was a campus photographer. So he kind of just knew a little bit of everything, and it was real great because I got to tap my toes into like every world. Like from storytelling photography all the way to the purest, most abstract fine art photography. And so it just gave me this great insight. And then I got super distracted and did journalism like full time for 5 years. And but around 2003, I finally decided I wish I had taken more photography classes. I got like a Nikon D1 digital
Nice.
camera. And that was like an awakening, because it really was at the point where like I wasn't super knowledgeable at home processing. There wasn't a lot of help with that back then. Like kind of the internet stuff was a little rudimentary. So having a digital camera at that point was amazing, because I could take 500 photos and it didn't, matter too much. And that's what's a nice thing about digital. So it gave me a chance to just mess around and mess up a lot. And then eventually I just kind of like got into photographing concerts, because it was fun. It had some of that energy and light play that you got in BMX and stuff like that. And there just weren't that many BMXers around that I could photograph back then. It's a little different now. If you heard of Morgan Wade, who won some X Games stuff a couple of years ago, he's from around here. So I could have like maybe photographed him if we lined up a little bit better. But back then it was just a little harder. But I got into music photography, shot hundreds of shows, kind of learned how to shoot in low light and how to make energy or something that was in a club with a single light bulb and no crowd look like it was just this great rock show. And that was like all the way back to the Wizard Publications freestyle and type mindset that Bob Osborne and Spike Jonze and Wendy Osborne did. They make something look how it feels. And that's the Ansel Adams like red filter on the sky thing, epiphany, like make it look how it feels. And so I did that with concert photography, and I got a little burned out on musicians spending all their money on their 15th guitar instead of band photos.
Yeah.
And, but I had a great time, hung out with this wonderful band called Isley, shot tons of their shows. They're still around, but they're from around here.
Okay.
And shot their shows in like New York and Hollywood and Denver and everywhere in Texas, like all over the country. And then eventually it got down to, it's like, well, now I want to take pictures of the people in the bands. And I got interested in portrait photography, and I had some friends in like small bands that, or they were musicians who were interested in having their portraits taken. So I started experimenting with that. And that's kind of what led me down eventually to portraits, because music was fun, but I was really interested in people. So that's my very winding story.
No, it's a great story. I find it really interesting to hear like what inspired people to get started, and like, what led them to where they are now. Because it's always interesting to hear everyone's adventures, because like all of our stories are a little bit different. So that's cool, man. So now you're kind of more focused on portraiture, or?
Oh yeah. I eventually, I dropped out of journalism. I kind of started trying to do just full-time photography thing, and wound up being basically a wedding photographer for most of 3 years. And then the 2008 economic downturn hit, of course. So it was pretty lean times. And I decided, well, I never actually went to college for photography. I took a few classes and was around it a lot, but I never actually did it. So I went back to Kilgore College at that point and got involved with their photography, and got sidetracked again by helping the journalism stuff, because I was a professional copy editor and designer and stuff like that. So I was pretty accomplished at all of that. So I wound up being like an assistant teacher for both programs for
that's cool.
Several years, like something like 7 or 8 years, something like that.
Did you get to be like Professor Jamie then?
A little bit, yeah. I wasn't like degreed with a master's degree. I'm like, well, I want to do this. And so that led to grad school, which was a horrible disaster, but I got a master's degree.
Why was it a horrible disaster?
Okay, so I had 12 art professors basically, and all of them hated me. So complicated.
What, how did you get to be so well loved by them all?
That's a good question. I think it was mostly like just philosophical differences, but also I was aligned with, this was a university that had an amazing past. Like they were a top 10 photography school from the early 80s or late 70s on through almost the 2000s. And I don't want to like talk trash about them or anything, but they had that generation retired, obviously, because they had gotten pretty old. And so this new generation of professors had come in, and they, I think, were a little envious of the previous generation, and so tired of being compared to them, that I was connected to that previous generation through my teacher who I'd worked for, who was part of that previous generation. To give you an idea, like Mark Seliger was one of their students. So the Rolling Stone photographer.
Oh, wild.
Yeah, so they legit really amazing school. And I'm still so happy that I got to, like, before they tore the building down or renovated it and moved all the photo stuff out, I got to like go around all the old photo labs that had like been built through the late 60s all the way to the mid 90s. And like I call the plumbing like Mario Brothers plumbing, because it was just like some guys like, okay, we need a darkroom sink in here. It's like, well, how do we do this? What did I learn in RIT? Okay, here we go. And they would build all these labs in dark rooms. And it was just like so much had built up over the decades that it was just so neat to see all the different technology, all the different things that had been done there, and to kind of like try to soak some of it in while I was around it. So that part was nice.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So you mentioned they stopped doing that program, or it's not as like significant as it used to be, or?
They got moved to a different building, which is fair because that building was pretty awful, and I think years of darkroom floods had destroyed the floors. But they moved us to a smaller darkroom in a different building, and kind of it's dwindled in size. But I think last I heard they're still doing it, so at least that's good. But yeah, they just kind of don't focus on things like they used to. It's kind of just more part of an art program now than like an intense photography program.
That's too bad.
Yeah. But I'm glad they're doing anything. But it was cool because I had access to like all the old cameras they had laying around. They had like still functioning a couple of Hasselblads, although I had Hasselblad at the time, and Mamiya RZ67s, 4x5s, just any kind of old toy, just so many things laying around, and a fridge packed with film that people had neglected but kept frozen.
So it was still good.
Yeah, I accidentally stole a part of a box of Provia that had expired, Provia 8x10 that had expired in 1992, but it was frozen until a few years ago when I found it. And I shot it, and it still looks pretty fresh till today. So I've got about 6 sheets of that left. I'm going to try to finish sometime this year.
Dang.
Yeah, so it was really cool, and then it kind of got a little lame after people started raiding the fridge and selling it on eBay, but that's their problem.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the film scalpers. I just, whatever, free markets and blah, 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 but I just think it's rude to do that.
Yeah, if you're charging $20 for a roll of Kodachrome.
Well, the Kodachrome one kind of chaps my ass a little bit because like people get, especially after the Kodachrome movie came out on Netflix, reinvigorated like the love and interest in it. It's like you can actually get color shots out of it. Like you can get muddy black and white from it apparently if you hand dev it in black and white, but no one's gonna know that, so someone's gonna like pay $20 for this Kodachrome, go shoot it, and then go to their drugstore lab or whatever, and then people are gonna be like, I don't know what this is. Yeah,
and if they try to run it, the rimjet's gonna jack up all their stuff.
Yeah, it's just gonna destroy everything. Like that's kind of rude. And then like when all the people were fucking buying up all the Pro 400H and like reselling it like crazy. Yeah.
No, it's like I understand like if that's your film, like when Type 55 went out, you max out a credit card and get a fridge of it, but that's because it's for you. So if somebody bought bricks of that stuff because it was for them, I'm fine with that. But yeah, it's definitely the people. It's like $100 a roll. It's like no.
Well, like so, my friend Henry, he used to be the photography teacher at Emily Carr here in Vancouver. And he used to use like 8x10 Polaroid and peel apart film a lot for his professional work. And exactly like you said, like when the announcement came that they weren't making it, him and his friends like all went out and maxed their cards out, just like bought all of the stock that they could, so that they had stuff to produce with, because that's how they were making their living.
Yeah, and it's such a unique thing. Like, people, when they say that you can put the borders in Photoshop on a black and white photo, it's like you don't get, like, it's part of the process. Like when you have little meshy looking top strip on that film, and then the little border on it from the peel apart, it's just not the same to just slap that on in Photoshop as if that's how it looks when you peel it.
Or when people do the Polaroid filter, so it looks like it's a Polaroid frame, and I'm just like...
What always kills me is when it makes it the back of the Polaroid.
Yeah.
It's just like speaking of filters, they do Super 8 filters, and then they have picture in a sprocket hole. I'm like, no, that's supposed to be black.
Yeah, there's supposed to be nothing there. It's just that there was a sprocket hole. But, I mean, whatever makes people happy to... Picture Man Bob's like, I'm dead. Yeah, it's interesting, though, because, like, on one hand... Sometimes I get frustrated with that kind of stuff, but that
yeah,
that's Picture Man Bob says Portrait for 100 sprockets on black and white film.
Yeah.
Or I can't remember who made it, but someone made shirts where it was like Ilford black and white film, but it was like the Kodak logo, and then like Kodak film, but it was like the Ilford logo, and they just like. Yeah,
it was I almost remember. It's like, I know who you're talking about. I wish I could remember his name.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think they sold out pretty quick. I was like, that's a clever idea. I get a kick out of that kind of stuff.
I thought that was really cool, and it just kind of like makes people upset. I don't have the mug around, but I actually played with the idea of doing merch for my YouTube channel, and I had a package of Kodak Gold, and it's like a box or tab. And so, like, I made the coffee mug design, like, the end tab of the box, and it says, shoot old film. I just did the gold logo, but without the G.
Dude, you should totally do that. That's a fantastic idea.
I should bring that back.
Yeah. I mean, you could at least make tens of dollars with it. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I could sell a mug or something.
Dude, people love all of the film stuff right now. Like, it's wild to see... all of the creators with you got one there, Picture Man Bob. You would get one.
I'll reload the shop.
I would probably buy one, even though I shouldn't. I have more mugs than I'm ever going to use in my life, and people still give me mugs.
I got some old I'm gonna make a note of old film merch. Okay, here we go. I have like 2 or 3 Polaroid Originals mugs. They had them on sale on their website years ago, and I was like, okay, well, I'll get some. And I see them now. It's like, oh, that logo's out of date finally.
So it's funny you say that. I ripped off that logo. So when I made stickers for my garbage, I ripped off the Polaroid Originals logo, like, very gratuitously.
I
scanned it so that I could get the exact colors.
Nice.
And then I did some Google Kung Fu and found what font they used for it, so I could even rip off the font and everything. And then they changed the logo, and so I was like, I was worried that I was going to get some sort of like cease and desist, but then they became Polaroid, and it didn't matter anymore.
Oh yeah, I have been joking with some friends. Like, I got this. I was at Don's Photo in Dallas a few days ago.
Nice.
And he had some boxes of Agfa Vista laying around for.
Man, that stuff is so good.
I'm excited. I bought 4 I got 3 rolls, $4 each. I'm like, of course I'll do it for $4. But there's this very serious soccer playing kid on it. So I'm like, okay, my new thing is I'm going to make a meme out of this kid who's like way too serious about this.
Dude, You should like scan that kid and be like, film shooters be looking at digital like.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my next thing is like Agfa Vista kid who's probably 40 now. You're next.
He looks like Kevin Bacon's love child.
Yeah, he's just so intense. Like, is the ball going to hit him in the face? Like,
No, he's gonna shoot the ball with his laser eyes and like.
Yeah, it looks like the balls like, I kissed your girl behind the sands.
Yeah, Picture Man Bob says when Kodak says they're raising their prices again. I never paid attention to the box enough to notice that kid before, but I did used to love shooting Agfa a lot. Like it.
Yeah, I never really.
Oh, what's that?
Oh no, I was saying I just never really shot this, but when I saw these lying there, I'm like, I want them. I thought it was like older. It is expired 2017, so it's not really that old.
Oh, it'll still be nice. Like,
yeah.
It has really nice warm tones to it.
Cool.
Like it's a nice warm film.
Yeah.
Like it's
cool.
The 400 and the 200. I used to love shooting that stuff when it was freely available, and then it went away. Like film tends to do these days.
Yeah, I understand some of them, like maybe like when the Portra's downsized from VC and NC. Now that's ancient history, but that's kind of when I started falling back into film. Is right before that happened, and I gotten super into 400 NC, which is still just an utterly beautiful film. And they had combined them into 104 and 400. Like, that makes sense because you don't really need that many types of portrait. You just kind of like need them. Yeah. So, but then there's stuff like 400H. Like, can they make any kind of 400? They could just take. Have you shot Superior Premium 400?
Yeah, I like the Superior.
Yeah, I love that stuff. And,
Superior 1600 was one of my favorites too.
Oh yeah, I didn't get to shoot that, but just like if they could have some of that, that would be nice. Just like a 400 Pro Speed Pro style film, just anything.
Yeah, but Fuji won't because they don't care.
They're so confusing. Like, yeah,
they're
that's
the worst.
Yeah, I really wish they could. Like, Zendaya had been seen with a folding Polaroid. Like, there's a picture of her, I think, floating around with her with the pack film camera. I'm like, hey, Fuji, like, get in touch with her, because she's got some pull. I mean, you can't tell me it's not worth firing up those machines for a celebrity endorsement like that.
Well, like for some of it though, with Fuji, the problem that they're having is they got out of film production like such a long time ago. Yeah. And they've just been going through like leftover production that they've had, like raw materials. So it's like the time for them to turn stuff back on was like fucking 8-10 years ago kind of thing. And like, that's why pack film will never come back.
I still think that with technology now, we could do better than pack film, because I love pack film, but that stuff really was super wasteful.
That's heathen talk.
I mean, there's the Pola trash. I mean, the terms Pola trash and Coda trash.
But it's such a beautiful film. Like my best one of my best pals, Alex, who's in Texas as well. She just sent me the loveliest care package in the mail. Some one instant.
Oh yeah, nice.
Let's see.
See, I like what one instant did because
some time zero.
Oh wow, I like what Instant's doing because technically it's a little more wasteful, but all their pieces are more recyclable.
It's not waste. Well, that's the thing. So it's not really more wasteful because it's mostly all recyclable versus like the old like this stuff. There's just so much garbage. Like
you have more refuse, I guess, when you're done with the one instant shot. But what you do with it can be so much better. And hi, Penelope.
This one I'm excited about. Some
Ooh, yeah.
669.
That reminds me. I have some like a YouTube viewer sent me a box, and this still has 2 sheets of viable Type 55 in it. I desperately need to.
Oh man, I still have some Type 55 that's in the fridge. That it worked a couple years ago when I shot it, but I just haven't really had anywhere to really use it or whatever. So I'm hoping when I get the new studio space done that I've been working on, to burn through some of this stuff that I've been sitting on for so long.
Oh yeah, Making New Chemicals. Was that about Fuji or Polaroid?
I don't know if Fuji is. Polaroid is making new chemicals, and then
I think Fuji. Yeah.
One Instant and Super Sense have been working with the 20 by 24 lab.
Yeah, I feel like they could. I think
Someone's making. Have you shot the One Instant yet?
I haven't. See, I have this thing like, okay, so it's connected to the end of grad school. I had like a major post-grad school depression. So shooting film was a big problem among my professors. Anyway, I finished grad school and then fell into like a year-long depression where I had just like all this film sitting there and rotting. It was going bad because I didn't want to refrigerate it, but I also didn't want to shoot it. And so I had... so I got the One Instant during that time. And so what really helped me snap out of it is Michelle, who's a space cadet in here.
Okay.
She was getting into film at the time, or getting like serious about film at the time. And she was asking me a lot of questions about it. And I kept answering. I was like, oh, right, a new film shooter. Cool. I'm excited, even though I'm like super traumatized about it right now. But I was so excited to talk to someone about it. And she was so excited about doing it. And she had asked me a question. I'm like, I need to think about this for a second because I don't remember it. But let me develop a roll of film and I'll let you know real quick. So I developed a roll of film. I'm like, that was fun. That was a lot of fun. I missed that. So I would use like a monobath. And like, monobath's cool because it's easy. But I developed one in like traditional dev and then fix and stuff. I'm like, oh, it looks so good. And I got so excited. Like, it's just so beautiful. Like pulling a black and white roll out of the fix, and it's like so crispy looking. It's just exciting. Yeah.
That's what I'm really looking forward to, is like when the studio's done, because I'm turning the bathroom into a dark room, and I haven't been able to print anything since like the end of 2019 because of all the pandemic shit.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, I'm gonna have to relearn how to do all that shit again. But someone made a Picture Man Bob. They are making new chemicals. Super Sense is working with the 20 by 24 lab, and so the One Instant film it's new chemicals. It's a new negative, but it's an expired positive. That's what's different, is they're not getting new positives yet. They're just using expired 20 by 24 positive that they're getting from 20 by 24 and cutting it and in like hand cutting it down. And then someone made a comment here of the scent. Man,
I still smell FP.
Well, so FP is fine, but One Instant.
Oh,
I don't know if you've heard about this, but it has a very distinct odor about it.
The multi-Polaroid or something.
No, it smells like ejaculate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'll turn it into some kind of birth metaphor.
Yeah, and then there is a bit of extra goo that they put in it, and a little more, like, it's a little more gooier than regular pack film is. So sometimes when you open your camera up after shooting a One Instant shot, it's like a bukkake party happened inside of your camera.
That's a great way to put it.
So it's, not only in like volume of content, but also like the smell of it. So when you do shoot the One Instant, you definitely do want to clean your rollers and because you don't
duly
want
noted.
Yeah.
Somebody had mentioned, I can't see the comment, but about postgraduate depression. We can definitely get on that topic at some point.
Yeah, Stanley Phillips Film says, dude, I'm going through that right now. Post-grad blues. I haven't touched my cameras for a couple of months.
Yeah. I relate. This is such a I feel like the that meme of the car pulling off the highway into the exit and like screeching across the that. I feel like serious discussion about depression. Camera bukkake party.
That could be another shirt there too, where it's like a Ford, not the Ford, it's like the drift car, where it's serious depression talk, camera bukkake party.
I guess I'll enter hideaway here.
That is the people in Austria. So Stanley Phillips asks, whatever happened to the people in Austria that were trying to make some new pack film? This is the people from Austria. So
the former Impossible guy, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's Dr. Florian Kaps, who's the guy that started Impossible Project. He owns a company called SuperSense, and they came up with the One Instant. He was trying to resurrect pack film proper, but Fuji made that difficult because they basically told him to go fuck himself when he went to Japan to like try and buy all of the remaining IP and all of that. And I'd suspect maybe it's because they still use some of the chemical formulas from their pack film possibly on Instax, and so maybe there's like some they don't want to give it up because maybe it would affect Instax, who knows, or it's just Fuji being dicks because that's also a thing. So that's why they ended up doing it as One Instant, because they couldn't figure out how to recreate the proprietary folding, because that's why pack film is called pack film, is because it's all packed inside of that. And it's really interesting, like accordion fold, where when you pull out the paper strip, it brings the next frame into to be shot, and then when you pull that frame out to develop, it brings the next paper strip out, so you could do that. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, it reminds me of the tragedy of the last. I had a 4x5 pack of FP I was going to shoot last year.
Oh.
I killed the first two frames because it had been years since I packed FP, and I screwed up the pool. And it's just like I was halfway. I had two dead frames of it in my hands. I'm like, that's it. I'm not doing it. I'm going to put it up until I can fix this. That was painful. I'm like, I can't believe I shot so much FP, but it had been so long that I screwed it up. Embracing
hypocrisies.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, that's a shame too. So SuperSense decided to forego making pack film, and they just decided, a lot like they did when Impossible started, because Impossible Film, which turned into Polaroid Originals, which is now Polaroid again, technically isn't even Polaroid film. When they first started making the film, it was called Polaroid Compatible Film, mostly because they couldn't make it exactly like Polaroid because they didn't have the recipes and they didn't have the means, and the biggest thing being that they couldn't do 10 frames like Polaroid did. And why they couldn't fit 10 frames into the exact same cartridge that Polaroid used is because they couldn't get the same Mylar that Polaroid used. Polaroid had a company that I guess no longer exists now, that was able to make them a super, super thin Mylar, which is the plastic sheet that goes over the actual image on your Polaroid. And so, what's that?
I'll let you finish that. I was going to back that up, but I'll let you finish it first.
Okay, yeah, and Impossible couldn't find someone to make a thin enough Mylar, so they had to go with something that was a bit thicker. And even though it's like minutely thicker, it makes a big enough difference when you start trying to sandwich frames in there, so they couldn't safely fit in more than 8 frames.
Yeah, and you can actually feel that. Like I found my last pack of 600 that I shot, or whatever. From 2005, I think it was, and I shot it again. Like I finished the pack like 2011, I think, because it was like half shot in a camera, and you compare how that film feels to what the film feels like now, and then the film 2 and 4 years ago, and it's like 4 years ago or whatever, it was super thick. Now you take a Polaroid now, and you kind of feel it versus the old stuff. This part is substantially thinner. I think they could potentially do 10 now. I feel like maybe they're saving that like for like a step up, like we've arrived. Now you get 10 frames, but or maybe it just helps the profit margin if they keep it at 8. I don't mind 8 too much, though. It was a little weird at first. But
I don't mind 8. Like, the only thing you have to be careful with the 8 is for new Polaroid shooters out there who have bought like Polaroid Originals cameras or the new Polaroid cameras that are all the I-type based cameras where you can shoot vintage film in them, the 10 frame film. The only thing you have to be careful about that with is the camera, because it's new, will only recognize 8 frames.
Oh, yeah.
So if you put in a vintage Polaroid cartridge, like a Time Zero, for instance, you'll get 8 shots and then it'll think it's done, but you'll still have 2 frames left in there. So the only way that you can not waste those is if you have a dark bag or you go into a very dark room or go hide under your blankets or something, keep your dark slide, take the cartridge out, and then you can fit the dark slide back into the cartridge and then reintroduce it into the camera. It'll think it has 8 shots, but you only have 2. And that's how you can shoot vintage Polaroid in the new I-type cameras. Oh,
yeah. Yeah, I gave up trying to make any vintage stuff work because it's usually dust by the time I try it.
That's fair. Like, it's...
sometimes, but yeah.
I get burned with that sometimes because, like, I get really excited. I bought a Time Zero off of eBay, and I was so excited for it because it was the manipulatable one.
Yeah.
And then when I got it back, because this is how you can kind of test to see if it's going to be good or not. If you shake it and it sounds like the beach, don't even bother opening it. You just keep it as a vintage piece, because if you shake it and all you hear is like the chemicals have just turned into dust and you're kind of boned. But if not, you may be good. And I mean, it is getting an age now where like a lot of this stuff, like the last films that Polaroid proper produced, I think were 2008. So like old Polaroid, every month that passes, the likelihood of it working kind of gets lower. And then with Fuji, I think the last production for pack film was 2018. So like that's still like I've shot some stuff back to like 2008 on Fuji, and it's been totally fine.
Oh yeah, that stuff is pretty stout at least. So if you have somebody who's taking halfway decent care of it, it's probably okay. But I get mad at people on eBay selling type like the 4x5 film for like $200. I'm like, did you test it? Did you feel the pods at least to see if they were a little squishy? Anything? Because like I wouldn't charge people that unless they had like I got like 6 boxes of Type 53 with a Crown Graphic a couple of years ago. It was all dry as a bone. But I figured out a way to take the negative and develop it in Paper Developer so you can actually get a viable reversal when you scan it.
Nice.
But that was interesting because I figured out how to. I think Type 55 too. You can do the negative on that still.
Well, Type 55, you can just shoot that as a regular frame and then develop the negative, because it's Kodak Panatomic X, I think.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah. What's really interesting about all that, as I was researching this 53 to figure out if there was anything I could do to save it, like the paper, I'm like, oh, this paper is light sensitive. I got to be careful. But the paper is not actually light sensitive. It's a receiver sheet. So what happened is like you have the negative, and it was a paper negative in this case, or plastic paper style negative. And so you have silver on there, and so you get, your image, and then the fixed silver is what creates the print on the receiver sheet. And I was
so it's not light sensitive. It's just a chemical process.
Yeah, and so I'm like, I had guessed this, and I actually found the patent a few months ago, and it said basically that. I'm like, oh wow, I can't believe I guessed that.
That's cool. So were you able to make an image with it then?
Not yet, but it's also, I think part of it is, I think if I could make the reagent, the goopy enough reagent that was strong enough that it would be plausible. It's just I'm not good at chemistry.
Yeah, because that's the thing. You would need to have them sandwiched together with the reagent so that while it's developing, it can pull the silver into the print. Yeah, you can't do it after the fact. It's not going to work.
Yeah, I'm sure it could be done on some level, but I'm like, that's a little advanced for me.
This is what happens when you get into film photography, though, kids. You start getting like really nerdy about crazy things.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, well, I've got the ammonia, which is the buffer agent between the HC-110 and the. But the thing is, HC-110 is not even strong enough to develop that stuff. I had to use Ilford multigrade developer 1 to 4, and that was strong enough to get an image out of it. But
oh, wild.
Yeah, I just kind of like, I did one in Rodinol, then Rodinol pure, and then HC-110, and the HC-110 I left for like forever undiluted had this faint image. I'm like, okay, so it shows an image. So what if I get something really strong? So I'm like, paper developer, that's like super strong. So I'm like, I don't want to just pour straight paper developer in this and waste all my paper developer. So I started at 1 to 4 because I figured that was easy to step that up, and it worked. And I was like, okay, cool.
That's awesome.
That's my fun trick to do if you ever find dead type 53.
Stanley says the people that do that should be chased down and forced to shoot the bad packs forever.
Yeah. Cut open the thing and put the dust in their food.
Yeah, and he also said there was a scene in the movie about Elsa Dorfman when they destroyed all the paperwork that has the step-by-step processes.
Oh.
And yeah, like it's kind of crazy that they did that, but also like Polaroid and all these companies were very secretive about the things that they made. Like even Kodak, because they were like trade secrets that if someone else got a hold of them, they could start, trying to develop that and make it like.
And it was a matter of millions of dollars. So. Yeah,
absolutely. And then like Dr. Land was like a fascinating man too, because he was just such an eccentric weirdo. And so Impossible did find recipes, but the problem with some of the recipes that they found is he used code names for the chemicals that were in it. So they knew the recipe to make the developers and like the reagents and all the things they needed, but all the compounds were code named. So it was not helpful at all. Because they were like, well, we can't figure out how to make this kind of stuff. And Polaroid didn't make a lot of the chemicals themselves because he liked to share the wealth around. So they would employ lots of different small like chemical companies and stuff so that they could distribute some of the money that they had made to the little guy, which I always thought was kind of a cool thing. Like Dr. Land was a real champion of that, of like not wanting to like hoard wealth like crazy, like be able to share it. He was like a equal opportunity employer as well too. Like, everyone got paid the same wage regardless of sex kind of thing. And he would poach people out of grad school all the time too. Like if he heard of like really interesting students that were doing cool work, he would go and be like, well, when you're done this, you're coming to work at Polaroid.
Nice. That's really cool. Like, have you shot? I'm assuming you shot some Polaroid, like of like the latest dates or the last few months dates and stuff like that.
I haven't shot any of the latest stuff. I shot some I-type from last year. and I like it. Like and the thing that I always like keep in mind though with Polaroid though is like I don't expect perfection when I'm shooting Polaroid because I know there's a high probability it's going to come out janky somehow. Like, you know, maybe I didn't look at the rollers good enough before I threw some film in, and maybe there's like a spot in one of the rollers or something, so now there's like smudges in the image when it comes out, or you know, maybe Amazon like fucked up the shipment and like, you know, put it next to the heater in the truck when they were driving it to my house or something. So I never expect the frame to be perfect when I'm shooting Polaroid. I expect it to be a Polaroid, which means it's probably going to be fucked up somehow.
I think that's something too that's real interesting that has changed about film. Like 20 years ago, you would have people you would have to buy the brick of slide film for your project, and you would shoot tests on the first roll, and you would want to make sure you had a brick because you knew they were next to each other in production, so that your test on color accuracy on the first roll would carry out through the entire brick for the project. Huh. We don't need that anymore. So the fact that if we get like lomography, people talk about how like the what do you call it, Metropolis film, like how it seems like they are incrementally improving that.
Yeah.
They don't call it a film because the consistency thing, or like they call it like a batch from this year because the consistency between film batches is harder to maintain when you're doing not like billion roll runs. But I think it's different now because 20 years ago you had to be consistent because you had a magazine buying 10,000 rolls, and if they were spending $20,000 or $50,000 on a project, everything needed to be perfect because there weren't computers they could tweak all the color with, or if it was like a really slow process.
Or you had to like pay hand tinters to fix up fucked up negatives, which that's a fantastical lost art. Like I don't know if you've ever like looked into that or like heard stories about like the people who would like paint on negatives. Like it's fascinating.
Yeah. Oh, even as far back as Weston, you would read stuff in his day books about retouching photos with a pencil on the negative to get out blemishes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like Weston complained about retouching in the 1920s in a book. Yeah.
Polaroid, our old camera guy says Instax is probably more consistent. Polaroid can be a little more iffy, but that's half the fun, right? It absolutely is. Like if someone's asking me about wanting to get into instant film, one of the things I'll ask them is like, you know, are you looking for like consistency or do you want something to be more artsy? Because if you want consistency, buy Fuji. If you want to be a bit more arty and you don't mind like lighting money on fire, buy Polaroid.
And the funny thing is, like with Polaroid, I don't expect to get 8 good frames out of a pack because, I mean, you might slip or it might focus weird or it might just be a crappy shot. But the last several packs I've gotten, almost everything has been, unless somebody blinked or something, almost everything has been usable. And it's partially because I think I shoot so much that I'll know if I do this with this background, it's not going to focus, or if I step this far back, it's just not going to look right. But just like, I mean, I don't really think about it too hard now. I just kind of like shoot 2 to 4 frames at a time. And if I look at a scene and I'm not feeling it, I just don't take the photo. But people are like, oh, well, I got two good ones out of 8. And I'm like, I can't remember the last time I had a pack where they all sucked. I'll probably do it. Time I go out, but
well, it depends. Like, you know, when they suck, is it the film's fault or did you just take 6 shitty pictures?
Yeah, and I use a flash a lot, and I had this great Kmart flash that I got with my SX70 sonar. Like a cousin found it at a pawn shop and at a thrift store, and she got it for $10. And she's like, "Do you want it?" I'm like, "Yeah." It's an SX70 sonar. I had this Kmart flash. It was a Kmart kit. So this thing was huge and everything, and it was bulbous.
Oh, is it one of those ones where it's like it has like the big battery pack on the bottom, and then it has a huge wire, and you put this like it almost looks like a fucking light from a lighthouse? Yeah,
and I got a mint flash bar, and I would use that. And like I like the Kmart flash better, But I was like a couple months ago, I was shooting and I took a picture during like one of the first pictures of the shot, and it just hear this loud bang, and the bulb blew up. I was like, oh, goodbye Kmart flash. But I've been using the Mint flash bar since then. But
message Zane. He might have an idea of how, because you should be able to just like put another flash bulb in there. Like you can maybe sacrifice another flash and.
Yeah, I mean they're only like $10 or $15 on eBay, but I like that the Mint flash bar is smaller, but I have to tape it on my camera because I've dropped the thing in a swimming pool. It falls out so easily.
My problem with the Mint flash bar is have you ever been to like a hotel or like, you know, maybe you had a sleepover at someone's place and you go to have a shower in the morning and you turn the water on and it's like the shower is just like peeing on you. I feel like that's the amount of light that a Mint flash bar offers.
Yeah.
It's just anemic. Like, especially when you're used to like shooting like an SLR 680, which is like effectively like the sun shitting in your eyeballs when you take an image. Like, it's aggressive.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Like, I thought about getting maybe a Polytronic flash, but those are starting to kind of go up in price. But yeah.
If you're using it for portraits, though, have you tried using the Mint to connect to a wireless trigger and hook it up to strobes?
Yeah, I actually did that this last time I went out. I tried it in a studio years ago, and then kind of just, I don't remember why I stopped doing it.
It works so well, though.
Yeah, I'm looking through I got started a new, this was, my only complaint is that the flash goes off along with the remote flash, so I have to hold my finger.
Just turn it off. The bar doesn't need to be on to trigger the flash.
Oh, that's okay. I didn't know that. Okay, I didn't want to wait for him to find that out. Thank you. That's awesome. Okay, I'm going to do that next time.
The bar doesn't need to be on, so you just plug in, and if you want to just double check it without wasting a frame, just put an empty battery in your camera and just try firing it off. But it'll fire without being on.
Awesome. I think this might be one I took with the flash.
Oh, that's great.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna try that because my camera's empty now, because if I have a good enough shoot, I shoot through the pack and then just leave it empty until the next shoot, which is what I do with film. Because if I leave roll film in a camera between shoots, like if I don't finish a roll, I'll get to it, and I'm really bad about putting the notes on the back about what film it was. I'm like, I wish I knew what film I had in there, because I'll just have to hope it's 400 or 100.
Oh, I'm terrible with that too. And I've been I've been abusing my film hobby lately, because the M3 that I've been using has been in my backpack for like 2 months with like a roll of Metropolis in it. That's like, I don't know, got like 8 shots out of it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that?
Oh, no, that's fine. Yeah, I don't leave film in my cameras too much anymore, but when I do, I really leave it in there.
Yeah, I kind of feel too that I should get rid of some cameras, I think.
I have been unloading a little bit, but also I guess I can say this now. I'm hoping in the next month I am going to start doing the work for opening a community darkroom in East Texas.
Nice.
Yeah, and so I'm like, I'm gonna hold on to like my Contax G1 because I can make a little shelf in there. I'm like, you don't have a camera? Well, here we go. They got these nice cameras here for sale.
Dude, or you could even like maybe hit up Armand, because you could probably get like some like starter, like, you know, fucking Film Rebels or something like that from him with like some nifty 50s or whatever. But get like, you know, like a handful of them that you could like rent out to people that like just want to try it, where it's like, you know, you could do like a darkroom experience package or something where, you know,
that's good. Yeah. And it reminds me, like I ran the student photo checkout in grad school, and I also helped do some stuff with that in community college. So I'm like super familiar with like lab-based darkroom teaching and stuff like that. So it's fun because I'm getting to kind of like, I guess monetize it, but also just getting to do it without like, oh, now I've got to go to history class. Okay, well, I'll see you later. Now it's just like, okay, let's print some photos and learn how to do color. And so I'm excited for that. And Will mentioned the Polaroid recent stuff being good, and I super agree. Like in the last year, I haven't had a trashy looking pack of Polaroid film. I've shot a lot.
Yeah, I shot a bunch of I-type last year, and I was happy with all of it.
Yeah.
Like it came out nice because I bought a Power Ranger for my SLR 680 and SX70s, and that was what's that?
Current. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's your current? Oh, you just tape it on
current Power Ranger. I saw that you can do this, and Casey, who might still be in here, mentioned someone showed her this, and I cut out the batteries and tape them on. It works fine. Power Ranger would be a little cleaner.
The Power Ranger is also somewhat terrifying.
Oh no.
It's a lot more juice. Like those lithium batteries, like pack a real punch. And the first time I put a cartridge in and like closed the door, like the way the motor like shot the frame out scared the shit out of me a little bit, because I'm like, I've never heard the motors run that quickly before, and it was just like if I didn't have a frog tongue, it probably would have went like flying across the room.
Have you seen was it Beetlejuice where Winona is like shooting the photos? That's what it was.
It was kind of like that. I fucking love Beetlejuice. That's classic Keaton.
Oh yeah. But yeah, so it's Community Darkroom's my next big personal project, along with some like 2 zine ideas I'm working on.
That's very cool. So like, are you building this like a warehouse or something, or
Possessed 600? There's a building I'm looking at currently that it's not moving fast, and it's awkward, but just right for what I'm looking for. And so I'm going to try to build it into basically something that used to be an office. But I looked at it. I did all it's like there's pipes in the right places. There's windows in the right places. So I'm hoping something like that will be good. But designing dark rooms is fun. And Penelope, who might still be in here, has her community dark room by Joshua, like near Joshua Tree. And, California, and I got to visit it, and she showed me around and kind of told me how she kind of started that business, and it was super helpful and kind of like getting a feel for what you could do with different types of spaces that are available. And then I combined that with my photo lab experience, and like I built a garage darkroom in my house, which is probably not up to code, but useful.
I mean, what darkroom?
Yeah, exactly. That was my fishing closet.
Yeah, exactly. It's just that's my hobby closet.
Yeah. But and things like when I ran the photo checkout at my grad school, I had to learn how to dispose of chemicals properly, because it was a state university, so I had to know how much silver you can legally dump, how you should process or store or do that, what chemicals you can pour down the drain, what chemicals you could combine together to be able to pour them down a drain to not throw off the pH balance of the water and all that stuff, which is what's actually harmful to fish. And so just things like that. And then I'll print out the material safety data sheets for everything and have them on an available binder and have an eye wash station and things like that. So it was super helpful for that. I'll be building a lab now. I'll keep a bag of kitty litter around in case there's a spill. I can get rid of that pretty quickly and safely and things like that.
Sorry. The kitty litter comment just made me think of something that happened to me yesterday. I went out and had a coffee with like one of my old Vancouver pals here, and we were exploring this. It's my favorite building in like Canada, maybe the world even. It's called the Dominion Building. It's at the corner of Cambie and Hastings, and at one point it was the largest building in the Commonwealth of Britain and all of that, at a whopping 14 stories. But it's just like this fantastic old turn of the century building, and it has like a 14-story spiral staircase that you can look down and feel like you're going to throw up and like pass out over the rail. But we were wandering around exploring, and we had found this mound of kitty litter that someone had poured in this like dank hallway, because I guess someone had like pooped in the hallway. And so their solution was just to like pour kitty litter on it.
Just leave it. Maybe it'll go away, but
Yeah, like maybe the kitty litter will disintegrate it, because that's what happens with cats, right? And yeah, that we took that as our cue to leave the building.
yeah. I just feel like there's some giant cat there and sees the person do that, and like, oh, well, they forgot. And then it's like, okay, someone's going to come and scoop it up any day now, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they're like, well, this is someone else's problem. I did my part.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
So,
somebody should come with a kitty litter shovel and
yeah, the kitty litter comment just reminded me of that. I was just like, God damn. That was... So in all of your photo adventures, though, because it sounds like you've done a lot, like it's a hell of a journey that you've been on so far. What's been like one of your favorite moments you've had, like either like shooting or like being able to like hang out with someone that you found like inspiring? Or
I haven't done like I'm sure I'm forgetting something. Like I've done like more important shoots and more prominent things or bigger assignments and stuff, but I really just kind of like connecting with anyone. Like some of my most enjoyable shoots were like I met a stranger and chatted with them and really just connected with them, and we got good pictures, and that was just fun. Things like that, or finding somebody who's a really good collaborator. Like I did a group shoot for a friend who owned a clothing store, used clothing store, a vintage clothing store, sorry, in the nearby city of Tyler. And one of the people there was just one of the models out of like 12. And she's like, oh, I like film photography. And like, we've got a great look. And we connected, and we've been really great collaborators since then. So things like that just make me happy. Going places and meeting people, because I met like Birgit from Lomography in New York. That was just fun to get to go to the Lomography office and see all the stuff around there. And she let me try out the Lomograph block prototype before it was released. And
that's so cool.
Yeah, just fun things like that I enjoy. And then there's also some things like meeting Mary Ellen Mark twice. That was cool. Getting to talk to Sally Mann. That was a fun story.
Holy shit.
I am Stanley. I am in Longview, Texas, near Tyler, a couple of hours away from Dallas.
Birgit's really great. I appreciate her a lot.
Yeah, she's awesome. I really like, especially since I was just like some dude from the internet who I think she had seen my photos or something, or I made comments on her photos. I don't even remember, but that was really nice. I really appreciate when people who don't have to be nice to you are nice to you.
Well, and like that's one thing that I really dug too about my interaction with Birgit was like she was really kind in general, but also just how Lomography was too. Because maybe it was I can't remember time anymore. Sometime during the pandemic, I did a giveaway that Lomo backed me on, which was like kind of wild because like I'm not a huge influencer by any means. Like I've got like 2,000 followers or whatever. Yeah. So I'm not like some like fucking Peter McKinnon or Verbeck or something like that. But she was like totally willing to like work with me, and like she sent me a couple of these like Lomo simple use cameras to do like a giveaway, and then she interviewed me and the people that went on the photo walk with them just to get our thoughts on. It was supposed to be Metropolis, but due to a manufacturing error, it was actually loaded with purple.
Oh, one of those, yeah.
Which is funny because, like, I don't like purple, but I really like Metropolis.
Metropolis shocked me, but yeah.
Metropolis is beautiful. Like, it's such a cool film.
I super want the new stuff. It looks so good.
The new Metropolis?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to get some more of it, and I missed the boat on Turquoise because it's sold out, and they're like, "Oh, sign up for the next batch. It'll come out next September."
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm glad they're doing that. I understand why it takes a long time, and I could hear at the point when I was talking to Birgit at the office, like about the Lomo graph lock, I could hear how many times she had to answer, "When is it coming out?" and it's like, I can't, like, it was basically like, I can't tell you because corporate stuff, but also it's literally just sitting on a dock somewhere. I mean, she showed me a picture of it, of the crate or something, like, this is what we got right now, and there's nothing we can do about it. So.
Well, and that's the thing too that I don't think a lot of people understand with, like, lomography and like even Polaroid, is that these are not huge companies. Like, it's a handful of people that are passionate and dedicated to this craft and providing these materials for us to be able to create with. Is I think some people think, like, when they think Polaroid, they imagine like Polaroid of the past. Yeah. But I think Polaroid is like maybe 30 people globally.
I'm sure. I think they haven't been that Polaroid since the mid 90s, when their patents dried up and they started just falling apart.
Well, it was that, but it was also what really killed Polaroid was Dr. Land.
Yeah.
His genius was what built them up, but it was also his, like, control over how everything worked is what sort of set the death of Polaroid. Because most, like, corporate structures and stuff like that, you've got, like, you know, the number one, and then there's like a series of number twos, and then like number threes, and so like if you lose one person, like, there's an ecosystem of other people that could, like, rise up and and then the problem with Polaroid was it was Dr. Land, no number twos because he didn't trust anyone enough for that, and then some outlying number threes. Yeah. But they all needed Papa Land's permission to do anything. And when Papa Land wasn't there, they were all kind of like, I don't know, what do we do? And a few of them tried to step up. Yeah. But that's the problem when, like, you know, engineers who are not familiar with, like, business practices and stuff like that try to run a business. They make poor decisions, which ultimately led to the banks just taking over the company. And then that's when they put that Ponzi scheme asshole in there that finally killed Polaroid. Yeah.
Yeah, like, it just becomes about the bottom line. And it's like, well, we made this much money last year, we must make more this year by any means necessary. And
exactly.
Just,
Well, and like, the thing that was really cool about Polaroid was they were never really one of those companies for the longest time, because they had made so much damn money during the war that they just had this, like, deep war chest that they could spend on research and development and creating art. Like, Polaroid had one of the largest private collections of art for the longest time, that they had acquired, like, through purchasing, but also acquired by just having artists give them work. Because you know, Ansel Adams was on staff. Several, like, I think Andy Warhol was, like, you know, on staff at one point too. But all these creators were, like, given materials or money from Polaroid to make stuff with Polaroid, and they would give them their work with the understanding that Polaroid was never going to sell it. Like, it was supposed to be this collection for, like, the betterment of, like, mankind or whatever. And then when banks discovered it, they were like, this is a cash trove. We're selling it.
Oh, corporate stuff.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
Oh yeah.
So this idea for the darkroom thing, though, like, where did that come from? Has this been something that's been stewing, or?
That's a good question, because I had been informally like developing film for friends over the last couple of years, and like it's like, give me $10 and I'll develop it and everything, because it helps pay for the chemicals and stuff like that, and a little bit of time. And I usually just put it in with my rolls anyway. So like I'll shoot 2 rolls and I'll develop 2 of their rolls and so on. But that kind of like, I didn't want to start a lab, because I talked to Emily Swift, who started Dark Slide Film Lab.
Yeah.
And she's doing a great job with that. But I could see it like dominating her life. And I'm like, if I do a lab, it's going to be all I do. I'm going to be a photo lab. You know, I like doing some of that, but I don't want to be a photo lab. I like teaching photography. And that was why I was in grad school, is I wanted to teach photography, and then they killed my photo program at my community college, and I had 0 chance after that. But so I'm like, oh, that's a bummer. You know, I've got this. I went through all of that, and then now I can't even teach photography, which is actually one of the reasons I started YouTube. I wanted like, okay, well, how can I get my photo lectures out? Okay, I'll do YouTube. And so it started like from like, I wanted to do something. I couldn't put my finger on it, but then I started meeting people like Penelope, who had a community darkroom, or has one that she's working to reopen. And I was like, why don't I do a community darkroom? And it's one of those moments where it's like, oh, East Texas doesn't want that. But then I'm looking around at these people who are paying me to develop film, and I look, and it's like, there's a lot of people in little tiny East Texas that are really interested in this. And then you see celebrities, like these young celebrities with like T3s and T2s and stuff, and you're looking at it, and they realize that they grew up on phones, and the hackability of phones, and things like their lewds getting stolen and revenge porn. You can't hack a camera, you know. You can't hack a film camera. You
know what the best camera is for making pornography?
Polaroid?
The SLR 680.
Yeah.
Because the autofocus works in complete darkness, because it's a sonar autofocus. It works by sound waves. So a friend was telling me about this. That it's great for that, apparently. I've never done it, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I remember, I have a vivid memory in like 7th grade. This guy in gym class, I'm like just trying, like I hated gym class. Overweight kids. Hate gym class.
Yeah, I hated gym class too.
So I'm sitting there just zoned in at my locker. This kid pulls a Polaroid of his naked girlfriend in front of me. I'm like, look, I know we're the same age, but I don't want to see a 14-year-old. But it's a Polaroid, so nothing would ever come of that. So I'm like, I think that now, and I think of all these like people on Snapchat and how that was such a draw to them that the snaps had disappeared. But then you see like celebrities getting their phones hacked, and it's like, now I know why they carry around a T2, because as long as you don't digitize that or put it on the internet, you've got your memories, and no one can get to those. Like, they might steal your pictures, but then you've probably got bigger problems if they manage to get their hands on your print.
Exactly. Yeah. And
so, I see the appeal of that.
There's definitely an appeal to it, and also just the popularization of it too. Like, you know, people find it cool, and I think also tangibility, because you know, all of us carry one of these fucking things around with us, and you know, we all are guilty for taking way too many photos on them that go nowhere. But the tangibility of like a real camera, where you could like, you know, make something that you have to like work with your hands to get, and you can get physical prints that you could share with your friends and things like that. Like, you know.
Yeah, I have my zines. Like, I look at these photos online. These computers. I mean, I like the irony that I shot like computer screens with a film camera, but
that's pretty funny.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well for sale in my store. But yeah, I have like music. I had all these albums as MP3s on so many hard drives, and like hundreds and hundreds of albums. and I don't have the hard drive. So I'm like, well, all that music's gone. And I was thinking about the whole Spotify Neil Young thing going on. And I'm like, I'll delete Spotify. And it's like, it's a good thing I have records because I listen to a lot of music on Spotify, and because it's just easy to go through someone's catalog. And like, I wonder how this band was for their first 5 albums, and you can listen to it, but it's not the same. Like, you don't have the same thing where you would have to go to a record store. I'm like, okay, I have $10. Literally, I only have $10, so I've got to buy an album. And which one do I get? And you would listen to that thing like 50 times. No, you don't do that anymore.
No, you don't. And I don't know. I can't. Oh yeah, here. So I've been really digging how some groups have been like releasing new music on old formats. So like a homie of mine, Chad, he's part of this rap group called Imagination's Tree Trunk, and they just released a new cassette of their tunes. And it's like, just, I don't know, it brings me back to being a kid when I would like fucking, I don't know if you had this in your high school or middle school, but like in the 90s when I was a kid, we would all like fucking have our Walkmans, like the earbuds in, and then you tuck the wire down your shirt so you could have like the Walkman in your like pockets, so you could kind of like stealthily hide it, because they didn't like it. So we'd wear the hoodies so you could have like the earbuds in, the hoodie up, and so it's like, you know, and you have like all the tape cassettes in your backpack for the day. And yeah, I've been really digging that, like, you know, there's digital downloads you could get, but it's just cool to have something that you can put out there, and they're sort of bespoken, so it's like, you know, one of 60. And then vinyl, I like vinyl a lot too. Not because it sounds better, but because of the ritual around it.
I'm a graphic designer too, so like the design aspect of vinyl, I've always liked it. I would even say it like during the heart of the CD era. I'm like, I just like the art, and like, can we, because CDs used to have those long boxes, you know, and
yeah, and I like that about CDs too, where you get like the multi CD things, like Simon, or not Simon, fuck. Why can't I remember the first part? Infinite Sadness, the Smashing Pumpkins one, but it's like, what was the first part of that? Yes, Melancholy. That was my first like big CD pack, and I loved like all of the artwork that came, like just how it was. Yeah,
definitely. So I'm like a packaging fiend, and when we moved to MP3, I'm like, oh, CDs were bad enough. Come on.
Yeah, and then if someone doesn't rip it good, it sounds like shit, and you just like, you know, you can hear all the digital artifacts in it and stuff, and that's no fun.
Whenever someone hits the cymbal, it's like, it's like, okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, that's where is it? I had that album in double cassette. Man, there's some old people on this chat tonight.
Oh, that reminds me. Speaking of cassettes, I can find this one. This is my era.
Oh, nice. That was my era too. Yeah. It was weird. Like, it was upsetting to hear that he had died, but I was actually more affected by Bradley's death from Sublime than Nirvana. I was more of a Sublime kid than a Nirvana kid.
Yeah, Nirvana was my band, like my first favorite band. Like, I discovered them, and like it awoke me to a wider world of music. And I actually got this like maybe a week or two after it came out in 1992. Yeah. Damn. This is the actual tape, so that's kind of cool. I can't believe I managed to hold on to that. But yeah, that was like when Kurt died. It was like rock stars were over for me. So
yeah, but now you can be a photo rock star.
Yeah.
And you said you've got 2 zines you're working on right now?
Yeah, so I've done 2. I've done this one I had, and another one that was a larger format that was all digital work, but it had grown out of my abandoned grad school project. But there's one that I was working on right before that I did a show with, in this, like, my friend with a vintage clothing store. There was this little, she was renting a property in Tyler, and there was this little almost shed, like kind of enclosed tiny house in her backyard of the property, and it was basically a cat hoarder's house. it smelled of cat urine strongly, and
Ugh.
he like stored cats in there. So they had bought it, and so it was nasty. And we used it for photos occasionally, but it was hard because it smelled so bad. But she had finally like bleached it out and repainted it and stuff. So I went in there after she first repainted it and everything. I'm like, I want to hold a show here. I want to like put photos on the wall. This is a gallery. And she was totally with it because we collaborate really well. She still has a clothing store, but it's in Dallas now. But so she was like totally down, and she made this big event. And I actually did this whole gallery show in this tiny little cat hoarder shed. And I made a logo for it modeled after the Bang Bang bar on Twin Peaks, the logo. I wanted to have a neon, but for a one-night art show, it wasn't wise. But I called it the cat room, and I had a screeching cat logo for it. And so it's the cat room gallery for one night only. And I had this body of work there that was my abandoned thesis project that I'd finished called How to Be When You Aren't Anywhere at All.
That sounds interesting.
And the photos are on my website, jamiumphoto.com. My photos that I did on a computer are the lead ones, but if you look on the other work, it's on there. Let me see if I can find this. Yeah, so if you go to more work on that front page, it says there's Loneliest Colors, which is my first zine, and then How to Be When You Aren't Anywhere at All. And those were all digital work, but I'm using my computer for fill light.
Yeah, I do the same thing too. I have the computer for some fill, and hopefully once I get the studio done, I'll figure out like a way to have like a better setup in the studio.
That's what I'm hoping with the darkroom too. Like the space I'm looking at, it's like a 2-story thing, but there's no like elevator or anything. So I'm like, okay, I can't make this public because it's not accessible. But there's just enough room. I can build a personal darkroom, an office, and a studio upstairs. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to build, and I'm going to have a little corner in there that I'm going to make my YouTube corner, so I can like actually do talking head stuff.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, so that's one goal. But the zine I'm going to do, like How to Be When You Aren't Anywhere at All. I had a bunch of other photos that I had like could lump into that, or I wanted to continue it. And it's kind of weird. Like I think about it sometimes, like when I'm insecure, I'll like remember when I was good, because I'll look at those photos because I shot them on a on a Hasselblad digital back with flash. So, like every shot was like on location with a flash and a Hasselblad digital, and I was like, oh, these look pretty nice. And I'm like, what am I doing now? And I feel like it's crayon drawings, but I think that's more just like, it's been so long since I looked at those. I'm like, oh, those were like really kind of crisp looking, but I've got an 8x10 now, and I'm shooting stuff with that. And so I'm like, it would be interesting to take that work, because I never collected it anywhere. I just showed it one night, and I had put a bunch of the stuff on the internet already on Instagram, and that's when I discovered when people will like see it on Instagram. I'm like, I've got 20 pieces on the wall. They're beautifully printed and it framed, and I spent like $1,000, so please come. They're like, do you have anything new in there? I'm like, a few pieces. So like seeing it this big on a phone was the substitute for my show. I'm like, never posting new work on Instagram until it's been used. So that's what I do when I do a zine now. I like don't post it anywhere, but until the zine's out, which is hard, but also kind of fun.
Yeah, I get that.
But so my zine's going to be that body of work expanded. I just got to figure out how to contain it all. And then my other zine idea, actually I got 3 zine ideas. Other zine ideas, I collected all my Polaroids into a single box. There's like a box this big, just jam-packed with Polaroids from the last 15 years. Like, it would be fun to just start pulling these out and make little $5 zines out of random collections of photos and stuff like that. And then I'm working on a body of work of underwater photography that I'll shoot through summer and probably release sometime in 2023.
That'd be cool. So that's why you got the Nicole Minoz.
Yep.
Very cool. This sounds like you got some exciting stuff going on, man.
Yeah, I'm excited. I feel good about it.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah. yeah, the dark room and two of the zines and just doing work like about there's the grad school slump thing where I felt like I don't know if we have to wrap up soon or not. I just realized it's been a minute.
Yeah, we can wrap up here in a few minutes and talk about the grad school thing here.
Okay, so there was a whole thing about not like a lot of people. This happens to a lot of people after they finish school that they're just lost. They don't want to shoot any photos. It was probably a semi-traumatic experience or something to that effect, and you're just not motivated. And a lot of the problem with my thing was like it's good to be pushed and to be critically looked at and everything, but there's this thing where in like academia right now you're geared real hard toward the art market. And it's more about being marketable than being a good photographer, and it's really important to be able to say why you're doing something, but it's also important to understand that why isn't always obvious, and to be able to still talk about your work. Like some people will have a mission, and it's cool when I envy when somebody knows what they want to do. Like they just like, this is my thing, this is what I'm doing, and that's all I want to do. I'm like, I like taking pictures, I like people, I like doing these weird things. I don't know what they mean, but a lot of times if you know what it means, you're doing something that's way too easy. Like if I knew the meaning of this, if I were like, I don't know, it's hard to explain because like if you know what you're doing already, you're probably not venturing out far enough to see what else you can do with it. It's like maybe too obvious or too literal. And I find when I like try to spell out things too much up front, it's pretty boring. And there's a lot of like my thoughts and opinions and ideas will come out anyway. And I might as well just do a ton of work. Then you look back on it and then you start seeing patterns and you start thinking, and it's the hard way because you have to spend just hundreds and hundreds of photos and different shoots and like years to understand what you're doing. But you just shoot a ton and then you look back on it and you have to stop thinking about, oh, I was a bad photographer, or like I'm not good enough. Like you kind of like it's so hard to explain. But it's good to be critical and to think that way, but on the other hand you also have to just make work and not worry if it's good or if you're good. And I mean, you can tell after you take a photo, it's like I really should have worked on the flash angle a little bit better because that's distracting. That's just technical that you'll get in 3 shoots anyway. Like you'll get comfortable with it and you'll never have to think about it again because it's muscle memory. What you have to think about is like that one photo that you did in the whole shoot where it was a setup shot, but they were looking off in the distance and your flash misfired and why that one is more interesting to you than all the other ones. And then you can look at other photographers and be like, and think about why that picture is more interesting to you. Stanley is mentioning out about academia. My problem with a lot of the people is I'm a teacher's kid, and in academia, I believe in teaching and I believe in the mission of teaching. And it's important for me to help guide people through those like insecure formative days of photography. And people in academia and graduate academia are there for themselves. You're there to do some research for them because they wanted to work at a bigger school and they're mad that they have to work at this school. And so they want you to do some research for them and justify their paycheck because, you're just justifying their paycheck and doing some work for them while they get resume lines or CV lines. And I love school.
So Stanley's comment was, I didn't like that there isn't any honesty in academia. People won't tell you what they honestly think of your work. He likes having to defend himself with his work, and he doesn't get that opportunity when people don't ask you hard questions. And then Right Angle says, this feels really validating as someone who didn't go to art school to figure out the why over time and trust that.
Yeah. Look at other photography. My favorite thing about my grad school experience, other than getting to like try to let the essence of photographers past like soak into me from the darkrooms, was to go to the library, which had an incredible amount of photography books from 1950 to about 2006. And I would just go in there, and graduates could check out about 10 or 15 books at a time, unlimited, or almost unlimited. I had $100 late fees often. It was bad. But I would get a mountain of books, and I would consume all of them. And I would do this thing where I just walk into the library and point at the shelf, and I would grab a book, and that book somehow was life-changing. And I was like, oh, that looks interesting. I get it. Deborah Turbeville's Wallflower, one of my favorite books ever. I discovered just like putting my finger out. I'm like, oh, that looks cool. And Jeff Wall was the same way. But looking at other photographers and not thinking that they're on this level. One of the things about meeting Sally Mann was I was talking to her, and I was like in the middle of the grad school trauma at that point. And she had just put out her book, and I was talking to her. I'm like, that part in your book about trying to shoot that 8x10 of your son in the water, and he was getting real pissed off because you kept screwing it up, and how he quit posing for her because it was so annoying. It took her 10 tries to get this one 8x10 shot. This is after she had been published, and like she was a famous photographer doing this and dropping her 8x10 holders into the water and stuff like that. And I'm like, that part of the book was really cool because it made me, like it just made me feel connected to, like, worthy of the process. And her first comment, I was like, oh, I screw up so much.
Well, that's the thing, though. Is like it goes back to like Mythbusters, Adam Savage.
Yeah.
Failure is always an option.
Oh yeah. And you are not that far removed from the Gregory Crewdson or whatever, who has $100,000 budget for a single frame, and maybe. And people talk about like, oh, you're not a real photographer. You don't like Crewdson doesn't even shoot his own photos. Like he tells someone to push the shutter button.
Yeah, there's a lot of like famous photographers out there that don't even touch the cameras. They have other photographers take their pictures for them. Yeah,
I remember Richard Avedon, like Laura Wilson would set everything up. Avedon would show up, get the pose, and hit the shutter, and then he walked off. And that was Avedon. Yeah, people don't understand, like if Annie Leibovitz were left to her own devices, you would feel much more connected to her, because she doesn't do her own lighting anymore. She doesn't do her printing or editing. It gets sent off to someone. The raw core Annie Leibovitz is much more like every other photographer. And if every other photographer sent off their photos to like some photo editing house, like these magazine photographers kind of have to, you would feel like your work was more on that level. So even as a beginner, you're not necessarily that far removed from some famous person. They just had a little more time to take a bunch of frames and screw up and learn what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, that's a good point. I appreciate you sharing that.
Oh yeah, no problem. And that was what's so cool about meeting Sally Mann, other than it was Sally Mann.
Yeah, that would have been so wild.
Oh yeah.
It's been cool chatting with you, man. I appreciate you hanging out with me and spending some time. Sorry, I haven't been on Clubhouse much lately. Life has just been busy. But I'm excited to hear more about how the adventures with the darkroom go. Are you going to be posting videos of that on your YouTube?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'll definitely, when I actually probably have a key to a building and can actually really start working on it, I'll make a video like I'm opening a dark room or whatever, and kind of follow the trials and tribulations of opening a dark room in a in a tiny town in East Texas.
Dude, I can't wait to hear more about that adventure, and thanks for hanging out with me tonight. It's been a lot of fun chatting with you and getting to know more about you.
Definitely.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. Thanks for everyone who showed up, and sorry I didn't get to say hi to everyone.
No, it's all good. Here, I'll play the outro. Let us go out there. But, dude, it was amazing to have you. and why didn't it work? Oh, there we go. I think it's working this time. Oh yeah.
All right.
It was amazing to have you. Thanks for hanging out. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Next week I am going to have my friend Nicole Minoz joining us. I know her as a crazy photographer from Vancouver that has an obsession with clown paintings, but she's also known by many other people as a Canadian film and television actress who is starring in Van Helsing. So she's going to be joining next week from, I think she's in Halifax right now. So that should be a fun episode. And dude, once again, thank you so much. I can't wait to get back down to Texas, and hopefully we can hang out and check out your darkroom.
Absolutely. Well, thanks to everyone. Thanks to you. I had a great time.
Yeah, I had a great time too. And, stay safe out there, and, just be nice to each other.
You too.
All right. Take care, Jamie. Bye, everyone.